Over the last 3.5 years, I sold over $10 million worth of online coaching. I had served over 1,400 clients internationally and had a full-time team of salespeople and delivery coaches. In today's video, I want to share my top 5 lessons that I wish I had known sooner because without a doubt, having this knowledge will help me go through the same journey with a lot less stress. So if you're someone who's looking to start an online coaching business or online course, or you're already in the middle of it and you're looking to scale that further, hopefully some of the lessons I'm about to sharing of it will help you avoid the same traps that I fell in and help you save some time to get ahead. Hi, my name is Rachel, and on this channel, we show small business owners and creators how to fast track their YouTube channel growth so they can get more followers, more clients easier and faster using smart AI-powered systems. The first lesson was the most important asset in your life is your attention. Now, let me elaborate. When I first started my business 4 years ago, I thought money was the most important asset in my life. I thought the more money you have, the bigger of your startup capital, and then the more likely you are to succeed. But over time, through my observation, I noticed that's not necessarily correlated. Now, looking back after 4 years, I think the most important asset in your life is your attention, specifically where you spend your attention. And the reason I say this is because back then, I did not realize this. And I had fallen into 3 traps. Number 1, I spent a lot of time on distractions. For example, I would get up in the morning, pull up my iPhone, and I would spend an hour, sometimes even longer, reading news. Before I realized that, I spent over an hour, sometimes 2 hours, during the most productive hours in my mornings on just reading news that had nothing to do with me. Second trap I fell in was I spent a lot of my attention on following the crowd. I was hyper aware on what was the latest trend, what was popular in entrepreneurship. So back then, what was popular was starting your SEO agency. So of course I tried that because a lot of people around me was trying that. And of course that did not work out because it did not align with my core skills. And when I got in, the market at that point was already oversaturated because everyone was going in there. The third trap I fell into was I spent a lot of my attention on other people's gossip. For example, who failed, who blew up their business, who got funding, what other people were talking behind the scenes. So I spent way too much mental energy thinking and talking about stuff like that had nothing to do with my business, my niche, and my product. So it took me almost over a year. And after 4 or 5 failed pivots, I realized, okay, I wasn't just wasting my time. I was draining my most precious resource in life, which was my attention. And I noticed a lot of people, not just me, are wasting their attention away. And here's the problem with all of that, because realistically, most of us, the average person, only have 3 to 4 hours tops a day that's most focused and most productive, right? And some people even have less, only 2 to 3 hours a day. So if you waste your attention away on reading news, chasing trends, following the crowd, gossiping on other people's updates, no matter how smart you are, no matter how hard you work for the rest of the day, you're just not going to see real progress. So that's why I think the real order of importance is attention is most important, followed by time, followed by money. And the reason here is obvious because you can make money anytime, right? If you lost money today, eventually you'll find another job and you can remake the money that you had lost. And if you had lost time, and time is important, of course, but it depends on how you spend it, right? If you're just spending your time on gossiping about others, then that is not necessarily directly helping you create value, right? So I think the most important asset you can ever have in your entire life is your attention and how you spend your attention, because the output of your life is the output of your attention, right? There is an equal sign here. The output of your life equals to the output of your attention. So the right question to ask is, where do I spend my attention? And that, of course, depends on your stage in life. And it tends to evolve and change over time. Now, for example, my focus is trying to get my business off the ground, and I want to be able to scale my business to $1 million a year, right? So then my attention should be mostly focused on how can I get that business off the ground? Now, let's say in a different example, maybe I'm currently focused on how can I get promoted in corporate America to the next level. So my attention should be devoted to that. Or if currently I'm really prioritizing on my health and get more fit and lose some weight, then my attention should solely go into that. But regardless of where you're at right now, what your goal is, the takeaway is the same, which is attention is more important than your time, which is more important than money. And if you don't protect your attention, everything else falls apart. Now, the second lesson here is acquire minimum viable knowledge. Now, no matter what you do, as long as you're in a new area, let's say, for example, if you're looking to start up your first business, you're trying to land your first client, or you are already in the middle of growing your business further, and whatever you do, as long as you're in a new area, you need to quickly equip yourself with the minimum viable knowledge to succeed. Now, first I'll talk about what is minimum viable knowledge, and secondly, I'll show you my exact method to help you develop minimum viable knowledge anytime in any situation. So first, when it comes to what is minimum viable knowledge, I'm sure you probably have all heard of this concept called minimum viable product, MVP. Now, what is MVP? MVP simply means that you launch and develop the simplest, the most basic version of your product that still solves the problem so you can improve and iterate fast. Now, similar to MVP, MVK, your minimum viable knowledge, just refers to the minimum amount of knowledge you have to have in a certain area or related to a certain project or subject to be successful in achieving your goal. Not become an expert or become the number one person in that field, but just enough for you to get started and be well on your way so you're not shooting blindly in the dark. Because here's the trap a lot of people fall into. They think they need to master everything about a certain project before they can start. They have to feel 100% ready before they can start. But that doesn't really work in reality because let's take a very simple example. Let's say, hypothetically, you're looking to start and grow your YouTube channel right now. So all you need to do is to master the minimum viable knowledge before you can start, right? Which might take you a few hours to even 2 or 3 days. But if you feel like, hey, I have to know everything about YouTube, right? Like you have to know all the different strategies and you have to know what's currently working, what's not working, the ins and outs, like 100% about everything. Then you're probably waiting for a year or even 2, right? Before you can start, before you feel like you're ready. And even when you start, it's probably too late, right? After a year or 2, all the methods, all the techniques, all the strategies are probably outdated at that point. And practically speaking, it's impossible for you to collect all the information. And this is where minimum viable knowledge comes in. So for example, before you start, you have to figure out, okay, if I were to start my YouTube channel, the minimum viable knowledge is I have to first figure out what is my niche, right? Who is my ideal audience? What I'm trying to do, the purpose of my YouTube channel is just to simply gather more followers, or do I have a back-end product or a business I'm trying to promote, right? And then first, if I were to create and upload the first video, what do I need? I have to figure out what's my topic, write the outline, script out the entire video, figure out the video title, create the thumbnail, write the video description, and then upload. That's it, right? That is all your minimum viable knowledge, or at least 80–90% of it. That probably takes anywhere between a few hours to a few days for you to complete it. And then you start, and then you learn and iterate through the experience of doing it later. Now, I want to share my exact 3-step process for you to master minimum viable knowledge for any subject, anytime. Okay, so it's very simple. The first step here is it starts with you getting clear on what your goal is, right? And translate that goal into what do you need. So for example, take the same example here. If my goal here is to start and grow a YouTube channel, that's too high level, right? That's too big. That's not actionable. So what you want to do here is take that more higher level, more vague goal into a more specific and more actionable list. Okay, what does that mean? Like specifically, what do I need in order to achieve that goal? For example, if I were to start and grow a YouTube channel, I need to first understand who is my niche, right? Secondly, what's the purpose of the channel? And third, how do I actually make a high quality video, right? And even from the third step, broken down specifically to make a high quality video, I need to figure out how to script the video. I need to figure out how to make an awesome thumbnail, to create a compelling video title, etc. So that's the first step. The second step here is now that you have the list of actionable items, you need to go through that one by one, ask yourself, is this truly necessary? Do I need this right now? If you convert all of that to be truly necessary, then you just find learning material for you to start learning about it. For example, you can go online, find a post, or you can go on YouTube, find a short video to teach you how to identify your niche, or how to use a certain tool to help you edit a video. So you go through that list one by one and you start to learn appropriate knowledge for that. The third step here is then you take what you just learned and apply them immediately, right? And by doing them. Because we learn the fastest and most efficient by doing. For example, from the YouTube video that you're learning, it teaches you how to use the script, right, to edit your YouTube video. So you immediately apply that and just start doing that with your first video. The third lesson I want to talk about is direction is more important than hard work. Now, I know this is a very obvious insight, and there's lots of people talking about it online. So today I'm going to address it from an angle that tends to be overlooked by most people, but is actually really critical. If you have the right strategy can compensate for not working hard enough. Meaning that sometimes if you're not working super hard, you just have the right strategy, have the right direction, coupled with decent effort, decent execution, a lot of times you can still succeed, okay? But vice versa is not necessarily true, meaning that if you work super hard under the wrong direction, you're almost always guaranteed to fail. Now, because my business is in online marketing, so I'll give you a marketing example. I have noticed through my years of online marketing experience that the most important two questions you really have to get right for your business. Okay, number one, you have to decide first which platform you are going to use to promote. And this is important because you're not going to initially instantly be everywhere, right? That's not realistic. So usually you're going to pick one that you think is most suitable and you're going to start dominating that first. And once that's successful or have some momentum, then you're going to expand to other platforms. So choosing that first platform is really critical. A mistake I see really commonly from my clients is they're choosing the wrong platform for their business to start with. Now, strictly speaking, there's no right or wrong platform, right? But there's a right or wrong platform for every type of business, if that makes sense. Now, for example, if my business is strictly B2B, my client is a company, a business, then I probably should not choose Instagram, right, to be my main marketing platform. It sounds very obvious, but a lot of people, like you would be surprised to see how many people are thinking about Instagram or TikTok to market their B2B offer. So for a B2B offer, the ideal platform should probably be YouTube first, because a lot of business owners or high-level decision makers in corporate go to YouTube to look for information, to look for guides, to look for tips. And the process of searching sometimes can come across with someone that looks like an expert, someone that looks credible, so they want to get in contact with them, right? So YouTube is actually a really good source for B2B lead generation. Now, this is not turning this video into an in-depth marketing guide, but what I'm trying to say here is if you are a business in a certain domain and you initially select a main marketing platform that's just not built, not designed for your type of offer and your type of audience, then you're destined to fail, and to fail fast. Now, the second question you have to ask yourself is, now that I have decided my main marketing platform, do I want to do advertising or do I want to do organic content? Because in marketing in general, there's typically two types of marketing. There's advertising. You spend money to be seen. The second one here is you do organic content, right? You're not spending any money. And there's, of course, pros and cons. If you're a business that's service-based and you really want very high profit margin, then you're simply not going to achieve that with advertising, right? And so if you're a business that has a certain profit margin goal and you're selecting advertising, right, to be your main marketing method, then you're just setting yourself up for disappointment later, right? So that's another example of strategy is way more important, is 100 times more important than your effort, because it determines how your effort is spent later. So the fourth lesson I want to talk about is obsession is everything. Now, what I mean here is if you think you're like me, I tend to think of myself as someone that's like an average person. I think I'm smart, but I'm not that much smarter than the next entrepreneur. I'm not necessarily working 10 times harder than the next entrepreneur either. I'm just someone that likes and enjoys entrepreneurship. And I also want to be successful with my business venture, right? So if you think you're someone like me, then obsession and being able to develop that obsession into whatever you want to focus on in order to be successful is definitely your secret weapon. Because being obsessive in something is essentially meaning that you have to get that. This is something that you really want, you genuinely desire, and you have to achieve that. It's not okay if you don't achieve that. That's actually the main difference between being obsessive over something and being motivated or just being interested, right? Because being interested, you can accept the outcome that if you work towards this, you fail, and that's fine, you move on, right? But But being obsessive is you spend every being of yourself, like every waking minute of you, whether you're in the shower, going to the bathroom, you're thinking about this thing, right? Like, how do you achieve this? That's the main difference. Being obsessive can potentially help you achieve something that you previously thought maybe that's almost impossible for you to achieve in a relatively short period of time. So in a way, being obsessive over something is like you borrowing time and effort and work and mental focus from your future self, right? So you can take all of that and collapse all of that into the current thing you're building to maximize your chance of success. Now, I won't go into all the details, but I have actually created a separate video that talks about how you can develop that obsession, that unhealthy level of obsession, to achieve anything you desire. So if you are curious about my exact process and strategy, you can check out that video. I go into details to talk about my process there. Now, I want to share the next lesson, which is to always have urgency. Now, first, I want to talk about the definition of having urgency. I think it refers to a sense of really knowing clearly what you need to achieve in this current stage and really be always in a rush of doing it and achieving those things with high quality and not giving yourself excuses. Because I find excuses kill momentum. Excuses is actually one of your biggest enemies in entrepreneurship. And when I don't have excuses, I execute way faster and get things done. When I have excuses, I tend to do things way slower and procrastinate. So when I had urgency, I kill all my excuses and I just execute and I get things done. And here I will talk about some of the common tactics for you to increase your urgency. I'll just share one secret tactic that worked really well for me. So back then, when I was trying to really increase urgency, I would attach a goal with a more serious outcome if I fail at that goal. So an example would be when I was trying to launch an entry-level course, and I went through a few struggles and we were essentially procrastinating and it kept delaying about 1 month and another 2 months. And it was like adding together 6 months in total delay time. So that was pretty serious. So what I did was I was thinking, okay, in my brain, let's equal the delay time in total with an actual monetary amount. So I went back there and did the calculation. Okay, let's say even moderately speaking, we can only sell 10 course units in a month, right? And the course was priced at $998, almost $1,000. So each month I'm losing like 1 month delayed launch equals to $1,000 per unit times 10 units. So $10,000 times 6 months of delayed time. That's $60,000, right? So I would just equal that. Okay, the more 1 extra month I'm delaying right now equals to another $10,000 on top of this $60,000 we had already wasted. So from an objective perspective, we never know, right? Can we really sell 10 units per month? Can we sell more than that? Can we sell fewer than that? It was not 100% accurate, right? It's probably a more severe consequence than what be in actuality. But just because I made that equation, now my mind is taking this procrastination more seriously. So it forced more urgency on me and I had to launch as soon as possible. All right, so that's everything. Thank you for watching until the end. I really appreciate that. Now, if you enjoyed videos like today's, please consider subscribing. I would really appreciate your support so you will not miss another video from me in the future. And I'll see you in the next video.